Good morning, everybody. So I have the great Steve Gosney below me and Fast Group. So with tensions and everything going around the world, thought it'd be good to kind of delve into a prepping stream, just see thoughts and kind of recommendations, what people think and what prepping is. There's so much stigma around it, but even we had that Doomsday Prepper show that came out, and
Yeah,
it's been
that's just the media.
sensationalized.
That's the
Right.
media mocking and, making fun of people who are actually concerned about their future and their family's future and bringing out extreme examples,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know.
So kind of to get away from those myths and get away from those, sensationalizing of all that different stuff, and really get into what you should kind of be doing or what is a good idea to be doing. Um, so that's kind of where we're headed with today's kind of talk, and I'm honored to have Steve and Fast on. So we even FEMA, which if you ever see FEMA, run the other way. Trust me. But even FEMA recommends that you have, a significant amount of extra on board, um, for just everyday events. So prepping can be anything from severe social unrest or political unrest uh, to a hurricane or a tornado or a bad storm or a power outage. So it really doesn't have to be, again, that stigma of the world's coming to an end, so I have to have X, Y, and Z. It's just and historically we've been kind of preparedness minded. If you go back to the previous world wars, uh, prepping was just the way of life. Like, you made what you had go as far as you could, and that was kind of what you did. It wasn't it wasn't considered prepping. It was just considered normal everyday life. Um, so yeah, I figured we'd just have a chat about it and kind of hang out, and I would gather some information from you fine gentlemen. So
Well, and you talk about prepping and you said government endorsement of prepping. I mean, the governor of Florida recently during one of the hurricanes recommended that every Florida citizen be able to go without any kind of resupply for a week. So, and basically on hurricanes, because we have hurricanes here, and if
mhm.
there's a major hurricane and there's major grid disruption, major police protection disruption, electrical disruption, that you should be able to exist for a week without outside assistance, and that's not too hard to accomplish.
Right.
And even the Louisiana Katrina hurricane, the idea there, and I know that the federal government, because it was a Republican-led government, it was used as a weapon against Bush and all that.
Mhm.
But the Louisiana plan was for the population to subsist and exist independent of any kind of outside intervention for a week, and that they were to retreat to certain areas, in which case the federal government would then come you know, in that week timeline. So the rescue parties would come in. And so basically the failures in Katrina in that hurricane were local, were
Mhm.
state and local failures and individual failures, not federal failures. So, and the same thing goes here, and that's what, like I said, in Florida last hurricane season, I remember distinctly because the governor called out and said everybody needs to be prepared, and that includes self-defense, which is what everybody talks about. It gets scrubbed, but that ignores all the other essential survival tools. So we can start with just basic independence of the American, having a home that is stocked with enough food, enough water. You have the ability, if you cut everything off, that you could exist where you are for a week and just start there.
Yeah, and that shouldn't be very hard to accomplish. I mean, realistically, no matter where you are, if you're in hurricane zone or there aren't major natural disasters, you should be able to survive without some kind of intervention for at least a week. Like, I think that's just good practice. That doesn't even get into the prepping side. And I think that we've, as society,
you say that,
yeah.
you say that, but the thing is that if I tell people that, okay, get prepared for a week, that is prepping. You are doing prepping. It's just a matter of how long and what your fear is. But ultimately, if you can do that, if you can could you survive for 2 weeks? Let's just, all we're talking about is amping up the time frames.
Well,
how much?
My understanding is FEMA used to recommend to have enough food and water on hand for 3 days, and they've changed that. FEMA now recommends that you have enough food and water subsist for 3 days if you're traveling, 2 weeks if you're staying put. That's what they recommend.
Okay. Yeah,
and to be able to survive without intervention for 2 weeks.
Well,
so
and
that's everything that you're going to need. You got to think about medications. You got to think about what if you have a medical device and the power's out? How are you going to have alternate power? How much gas do you need to have on hand for your generators? Do you have a generator?
Right. And what are your fears? And in fact, Prepare, you got me on. I'm a Prepare guy. I wrote a book on it. But what is it? I think the prepper community tends to focus way too much on the stuff element. Not to de-emphasize that, but there's just a whole bunch of writing. There's a whole bunch on that part, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is collecting stuff, food, shelter, clothing, water, basics, and then defense thereof, which is the second tier. Prepare, and that's why I wrote this, was because this talks about those top tiers, about not only surviving but thriving in an individually free, because you could be enslaved over time by running out of supplies. But what is the independence mindset? What is the ideal Christian mindset for individual freedom? So I don't know how it's your stream, so I don't know which one you want to emphasize, but when we talk about preps, I mean, like I said, I have enough here that I could go a month at least without any kind of outside intervention. And I have sufficient weaponry that repel borders would be effective for at least some. Now you want to have a community connection so that you're not just alone in your own little house blasting away. I mean, obviously groups can take you down, and you want to have a community support. So you want to be as integrated in with your community as possible, and have a defensive community rather than a defense of your home. Defensive home is generally criminal elements, gangs, that sort of thing. Yeah. And which is another thing to be prepared against. Prepare, I was going to say in one of the chapters on Prepare, it is all about the gaming out future dark possibilities, the edge of the abyss, and which is kind of some darkness on part 4, the edge of the abyss, and looking into the precipice and gaming out future dark possibilities, which I tried to catalog as best I could, the fears that people have and why they are preparing. What are they preparing for? And I think that's where, a lot of that's geographic. Like, you don't have to worry about hurricanes if you're in Michigan, right?
Right.
But I don't have to worry about earthquakes because I'm in Florida. Mm-hmm. If you're in California, your earthquakes are a big deal. If you're in Oklahoma, tornadoes are a bigger thing. So, look at what is the thing that you're looking for. And civil disorder is obviously in Florida. I'm in a much more vulnerable state than you would be in Upper Michigan. And Fast Group, I don't know where you are, but exactly, or if you want to disclose that. But depending on your location, different survival needs need to be addressed.
Well, my address is all over the place because it's my business. That's what I do. But so, I'm in Southeast Georgia, around the Brunswick, Georgia area. So just not far from where Steve's at, little more north. But that's what I was going to say, is that, preparing is very geographical dependent. And not only where you're located in the country, but possibly where you're located in the county. So For instance, I'm not sure exactly where Steve lives, but I'm not in the city proper. I'm out in the county. So
Well, I'm in suburbia, Daytona Beach suburbs.
right.
Daytona, and it's interesting because Daytona was just voted, I think, by a newspaper or something, the #1 crime city in Florida, highest crime rates in Florida. And then Port Orange was one of the lowest. So what that in Port Orange is basically, well, I'm in Ormond Beach, which is North Daytona, and Port Orange is South Daytona, Southern Daytona. So basically, it's the inner city is super high crime. The suburbs are almost no crime, and that's so.
But that's
like-
typical.
Mhm.
That's typical across the country. You know, even in red states of Georgia. You know, Atlanta is the abyss of a blue state in itself. You know, with crime being ridiculously high.
Now, if there was the thing that I fear the most is a civil disorder situation, like the riots in LA that I think went on for 10 days, and basically no police protection, large gangs of people looting and robbing and going door to door. And if you remember the rooftop Koreans who defended their and all, it was interesting because the riot stopped within rifle range of those Korean businesses. And if that doesn't tell you everything, and I can foresee that in a civil disorder situation where the police are basically kept at bay, withdrawn for whatever reason, political reasons or overworked reasons or whatever the reasoning be, that the suburban communities, would they have to defend themselves against roaming gangs? I don't know. I don't know, but I think that's something that you need to at least think about.
Oh, Tony will be back. He's having internet issues this morning, but yeah, and it depends on. So I live in an interesting spot. So, I started really putting preps to like real life. After the Detroit power outage, we were out for like 8 days, and it was getting real messy here. And then, so from that point, I decided to start taking it a little bit more serious. And from there, starting to look at things here, my whole contingency plan is based on getting out of the city as quickly as possible. So as soon as something happens like that. So we have 3 months worth of food, water, all that stuff here. And then up north, we have a cabin and we have a lot more. And most of my plan is contingent on getting up there if anything was to happen that was, really terrible. So, you have to evaluate your plans and look for flaws and be able to fill those flaws, with different things. So
Now, if we're talking, how long term do you want to go? Ultimately, Florida is not sustainable in the long term because of the population. The place that you really want to be is a demographically homogeneous, smaller town under 2,000 people in a food producing area, away from larger cities, I would think. Now there is an alternative view, and it's hard to game these things out. It's very difficult to think these things through because there are also people, and I'm thinking of I think it's in the Kosovo conflict. I'm trying to think. There was the Kosovo conflict. There's a book, and I forget the name of it, but there's different people that are talking from experience, and in their experience, the countryside was the Wild West. That the safety came from the inside the city, because the city could be defended by forces, whereas in the exterior, those were where the battlegrounds were. So I don't know how those things could unfold. Another one is hyperinflation, which I think is very possible, given the absolute. There's no discipline. The left wants to destroy the country by spending us into oblivion. We're already paying twice the amount of our defense budget on the interests on our debt. So I think that basically the the dollar is done, and we're going to find a period of very financial crisis. In which case, I don't know how that's going to unfold, but I think it could be long term. What's that? Yogurt and granola bars.
That's
so
some
that's
of our
Tony's food. So Shenny bought some, and she's trying it out as we stream here. So
and she's doing demonstration.
I'm just saying that they're it's hard to predict. Is the safer place to be in the city? Is it the safer place to be in a countryside and food dependent? I would go for the food independent, food producing small town areas wherein you have a good sense of community, not much diversity, one where the people are bound together. Now, there are alternatives in the hyperinflation in Germany. And there's a great book that I recommend to everybody about the German hyperinflation called When Money Dies. And there is a strong argument. In fact, I think that people overlook the reason that the Nazis came to power. They look at the Versailles Treaty, they think it's a betrayal and all that. All that's well and good, but it was really caused by the German hyperinflation. And what happened was the large cities with all the people who were on retirement and fixed income or government workers and the highly educated elites, when the hyperinflation hit, it happened not just for a month. That happened over a course of many years. And their retirements were wiped out. They had no ability to food. And so you would trade your Steinway piano for a box of eggs. And the farmers got incredibly wealthy. They drained the cities of all the movable wealth in exchange for food. And then when the Nazis came in, they offered to change that, to give renewed dignity to the city people and rectified that economic imbalance. When in fact it was the hyperinflation that drove that. But the masses, the population, the large amount of people voted for the Nazis because they were seeing this transfer of wealth from them to those other people. And then, of course, the Jewish people got wrapped up as the easily targeted minority and the scapegoat. But it was it's a really good book, When Money Dies, highly recommended. And I think that we will see something like that in the near future. I don't know when, but it's coming down the pike.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's going on right now with the Democrats. Spend us into oblivion and make the dollar worth nothing, and then come with the solution. And I think that's the
solution. Central bank digital currency. Is that the solution? Is that the end game? Is that what they're trying to go to? Is that they practically control everything you buy, and if they don't like it, they stop the payment.
Cashless society really has to be fought against. Digital tracking, like control over this economic point system, credit system, really has to be, and being independent of that, not having to rely on that, is important. I'd say, and I'm not picking on the Germans here, Axel. The Argentinians also went through a similar thing. And there's another guy that I've read several books from personal accounts of living through the Argentinian hyperinflation. And they found that, for example, a reliable car, they were able to trade a junker car that ran for a beachside condominium, because you had somebody who had real estate, a condo, but they needed a car, and nobody could afford a car. Cars weren't getting produced, right? So, a vehicle that you could run was more valuable than was his beachside vacation condo. So, those kind of inflation creates strange warps in the system, and it creates inefficiencies. And we are there is a large economic crisis going on that's just under the surface. How that unfolds, it's very puzzling. I don't know, but what's the solution? I think to prepare for those things as best you can.
Right. So it's we may not know the solution or the end game. It could be we're seeing programs like these carbon offset credits where you're allowed so much carbon, and if you go over that, then it's either a charge or you get shut down and can't travel, all that kind of stuff. So that's being slowly implemented as well, and I think that we ultimately go to a social credit score, much like WeChat in China or different places that have tried that. I think that's the end game, personally. So how do you fight that?
Well, one of the things that America has, that we have private property ownership. We have people that own their homes. Paying your home off, getting out of debt is critical personally. And having a lot of people that own their homes free and clear will make it very difficult for tyranny to take hold. Combining that with the Second Amendment, which makes it very difficult to conquer the people, and so you have we have some built-in advantages, but I wouldn't think that we need to not take it resting. We really need to fight a cashless society. We really need to fight social credit system, because that is the end game kind of tyranny.
Well, and you see the early implementations of it with things like restricting your speech on platforms such as this one, or different things like that, where if you don't toe the line and say what the government wants you to say, they're going to silence you, and that's just the first step in this long line of things that gets us to that point. So
I agree, but one of the things that we need to fight against is the lack of education that the populace has been given for decades. It's easier to take your rights away when you don't know what the hell they are. You've got people coming out of college that have no idea about the Bill of Rights or the Constitution or the Articles of Confederation or how any of that came about. And somebody mentioned on here earlier, I think it was Jacob, he said that the dollar is almost a digital currency now, and I agree. Look how our money is moved around. Credit cards, debit cards. I mean, probably started when everybody had checking accounts.
Yeah.
And you, depending on if you've got any money in a bank at all, go one day and try to withdraw all your money. They don't have it.
No,
they won't give it to you.
Well, that's the basis of the banking system, though. I mean, you have to be aware that the banks, that's the way banks work.
Yeah.
I know it's the way they work, but I didn't say it was right.
Well, I didn't say it was right either, but that is the way they work. And so you have to factor that into your behaviors and your investments. When I talk about investments, if you've got enough money, and I'm not in that position, but let's assume that you're wealthy. What do you do with your money? Well, how do you protect your family from whatever may occur? Well, first thing I think you could do, for example, is buy the mortgages out of all your children's homes. So if you've got two children and they have $80,000 mortgage on their house or $150,000, you can do it. Pay off their loan, and then you're the bond. You take the money, you're investing. You say, okay, I'm going to loan this to you, same interest rate. I've invested my money in my child's home, and ultimately, what that does is that guarantees that you control whether that house gets foreclosed or not some bank, not some foreign entity. Protect your family first. So, and then you still invested your money, but you've invested it close to home, and you could spread that out. You could also do that within your community. So those are the kind of things that I think that we need to look. We need to take care of each other and empower ourselves rather than relying on institutions. Homeschooling is a big, important factor, and that goes to Fast Group's point about education. And people say, "Well, are you for education? Fly the flag, right?" We need to not. All these institutions are being weaponized against the people. So defund them. There's a central weakness in the left and their takeover of all these large institutions. And that is, all those large institutions are all basically dependent on a single source of income, and that's our government. And when they destroy, when this hyperinflation comes, and when the underpinnings of our economic system are cracked, that stuff is going to collapse. And the people that make the country run, like the people who know how to manufacture, who know how to build a brick and repair a plumbing and repair an electrical, and the practical trades, which is where all the conservatives are, those are the people that are going to be valuable. Those are the people that are going to be essential. And the dollars that they wave around that they're forcing out of your pocket is going to be pointless. So, I mean, I don't know how far it'll go. I'm not certain what the future lays. I'm just saying that you be aware of these things.
Well, and I don't think any of us know what the future holds, and I think that's why it's a prep. It's a gamble on your future, essentially. But I think it's an important one. And one of the things that I've always lived my life by is learn something new every day. You make yourself so much more valuable if you learn something new every day. If you learn how to grow plants, or you learn how to bake, or you try to learn how to weld, or all these different things, learn something. Just take some time, learn something new, and then you're exponentially valuable to whatever situation you find yourself in, because you can do a wide range of jobs or a wide range of contributions to the group that you're in. So,
right. Well,
yeah, exactly. Because, if things do go that far south, this theory that, they're nut jobs to me that think they're going to grab their go bag and hump 40 miles of some national forest and live out there the rest of their life and thrive is stupid.
yeah.
It's not going to happen. It's going to take like-minded individuals to rebuild a community and rebuild a government, because that's what happens every time there's a collapse. Something comes back.
Mm-hmm.
May not be the same form it was before, but something replaces that vacuum.
right.
People just don't go back to, the caveman days.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that I've tried to build up north too. So we already have our community it's a private club, so there's already community. We have things like a lot of animals, there's a lot of farmable land, a lot of logging and trees. There's some resources up there. On our combined properties, there is a natural spring, so there's your water. Like, thinking of all these things and putting them all into practice of what do we need and what's going to be there. And I think the biggest one is that community portion, that I can't stand watch all by myself and protect everything that I have up there from anybody who's trying to take it.
For 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Right.
Yeah.
And my little guys aren't big enough to contribute yet. They can contribute in some ways, but they're not going to be out standing guard or anything. But when you have 60 people in your community, then you can rotate that out and protect what is collectively yours. And that's how governments function, where you have a collective group of individuals that take advantage of the situation and protect what's theirs, what they work for. So
let me ask both of you guys this question.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious about your thoughts on it. Why do you think there has been such a huge push to limit our Second Amendment rights over the last several years? Even after we've had Keller and McDonald and Bruen, the courts, the Ninth District is continuing to point both middle fingers at the Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
Look at what they're doing right now with what is it, Duncan v. Bonta?
Fascinating that I was thinking about this today, and this again goes to a urban versus rural divide, and that is that the populations are in the cities, and the city folk are very dependent on government and groups and things, because you live in a small apartment in a big building, maybe you rely on public transportation. I mean, there's a lot of need for public services, right? If you're living in the rural environments, then you're very separated from any kind of government. So there's an independence. Your threats may be wildlife and legitimate lack of police response might be an hour away. And so therefore guns have a whole different use in a rural environment. Yet the Yet the cities who run all the politicians and program the politicians see that their one size fits all solution is the solution for everybody. And I think that's a primarily flaw of thinking of the gun control folks. Now, I'm not advocating for control within the cities. I'm just saying that there's this, the safest places you can go in the United States is rural U.S. I mean, we are safer than some of the safest European countries that people like to look on with glowing eyes. United States is very safe, other than certain inner cities. If you took out maybe the top 10 inner city crime zones, we would have one of the lowest crime countries in the whole world. And yet we have the Second Amendment. We have people that are armed to the teeth. So that gives the lie to the Second Amendment. The gun possession causes crime idea.
I don't think you have to take out the top 10. I think there's only 4 or 5. If you remove those 4 or 5, maybe 6, the United States is one of the safest places in the world.
And those places that are safe are armed to the teeth. This is what people don't so that, and I have also another theory that I've been putting out. I've been playing. This is few talks. Free speech is thinking, right? And I've been thinking a lot. And I lost the thought. Let's see, hold on. I saw
but again, that's the other thing they're trying to really come down hard on is our First Amendment protection. Look at what they're doing with I don't know if you guys have seen this Turtle Boy trial going on. Even what they're trying to do to Trump.
Yeah.
So what? Why are they trying so hard to limit these rights? I mean, let's face it. We are not a constitutional republic. We haven't been for a long time. We are an administrative oligarchy. I mean, prove me wrong. Who is making all the laws? It's not Congress. It's the EPA, it's the ATF, it's HUD, it's all administrative, where they have all 3 of the governmental rights. They come up with the laws, they enforce the laws, and they adjudicate the laws.
Well, and
not one of them is elected.
Yeah. Well, I think to answer your previous question, why gun rights, I think one of the things that, if not so disgusting, it would be admirable, is the Democrats insert themselves into literally everything.
Mm-hmm.
They're very good at mobilizing. They're very good at getting their point across. They're very good at inserting themselves into every office, into every single ballot. They're just really good at that organization piece. And they have every single tier. They have from our education system, so they can teach them what the hell they want to teach them. They have them in government, so they can teach them, and pass laws as they please. They're starting to infiltrate law enforcement, and they're just everywhere. They're literally everywhere. And I think as conservatives, in some stretch of the imagination, we probably deserve a little bit of it because we were kind of asleep at the wheel and let somebody take our country. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, the whole education started with Carter in the Department of Education.
Mm-hmm.
So now they had that's another administrative oligarchy.
Mm-hmm.
It decides everything about the education system, what you're taught.
Yeah.
And why is the left not why they're so good at it, but why are they doing it so much? Is it because they honestly believe they have the best interest of the general population of the country in mind? No, not in my opinion. In my opinion, it's for total power.
I think it's power. I think it's the introduction of a system that benefits their power. And I think that's the whole, and it's the long game. And we see the same thing in China, where we talk about China moving on Taiwan. Well, China's been playing this long game for hundreds of years with their Belt and Road and, all this stuff. Like, the people that have the patience to play the long game are the most dangerous, because eventually they're going to win because we get complacent. Like, we want it to change today, and it's not going to. So
Yeah.
I think that's a huge part of it, and a huge issue with our strategy and our kind of our way of dealing with things is eventually, even if we were to oust them right now, they would just regroup and play the long game again, and we'd be right back here in 20, 30, 50 years. So
Yeah, and I think that's why the framers did the Constitution and set the government up the way they did, because they knew that they had just fought a war where total power was total corruption. They wanted to make George Washington the king of the United States, and then decided, no, we're not going to have a king. That's what we just fought a revolution for.
right.
But it's taken almost 250 years to legislate and administrate all of those freedoms and constitutional guarantees away. And people, they've been able to do it because they're doing it to people that's never been educated about what those rights are for. Why were they even created? Why was the Revolutionary War even fought?
Well, can we get back to prepping a little bit? Because, this is all, diagnosing the problems in the country, which is a reason to prep. But there's other reasons to prep aside from that. And one of the things that I really want to encourage people to look at when we're talking about having food on hand, and part of it is that I can't predict the future. I don't know when. And that's one of the reasons I really try to have my food stocks that I'm available in a freeze-dried way, because if the freeze-dried food lasts at least 25 years on the shelf if stored properly. And so you want to have 3 months, let's say, whatever your target goal is, of food available in a freeze-dried format. And then same thing with like ammo and guns, but also freeze-dried foods. And also before that, even a valid source of water. I'm a big fan of the Big Berkey water filter. And the Big Berkey water filter can handle 10,000 gallons. And we had just ordered my change. So I changed the elements, and then I saved the old elements just in case, right? Because you don't want to throw them away, right? Instead, I saved those elements. So I have old elements, and then I have the new filtration elements. And those Big Berkey water filters, you use it just to filter the regular tap water and use it as our water filter. But you can theoretically put rainwater in there and use that as your source of drinking water. Also having a little bit of bleach. So you take that, you can filter your rainwater, put a little bleach in it, and you have drinkable, potable water. And in Florida, it rains all the time. I can't keep my rain barrels empty. One rainstorm and they filled at the top. So I don't have problems getting water. It's a matter of purification. So water, and then freeze-dried foods. And I know Fast Group, you've got. I just ordered some stuff from y'all.
You did?
I did.
Huh, I have not seen that. I haven't seen that come through.
Well, anyways, but would you talk about what freeze-dried food is and how it stores and how it, how you bring it back?
Yeah, and you can see right down there in the bottom left that Shinny is eating some of our freeze-dried foods that she just ordered. So what she got there? Is that our biscuits and sausage gravy? Oh yeah.
Yeah, biscuits gravy. Yep.
Yeah, and and we make everything from scratch as much as possible. I grind that sausage from pork and put my spice blend together, and I grind that sausage. I make the gravy. It's just the standard bechamel, which is a French sauce, which everybody knows is a white gravy. It's just lard, flour, whole milk, salt, pepper. And the biscuits we don't make. We've tried to make the biscuits. We just don't find it economical or we haven't really gotten a biscuit made yet that compares to store bought. So the biscuits we don't make. And we do that with all those foods. So freeze-dried foods is taking food, and there's certain things, my better half could probably explain it better, but because she does the actual freeze drying. I do all of the cooking. All of our entrees, I do all of the food. We have a lot more candy products now just because they tend to sell. So she freeze dries and does the candy. But freeze drying is you take a food, but you can't freeze dry something that has very much fat in it. I know some people will freeze dry hamburgers and stuff like that, but it's got to be really lean. It's got to be a lot of things done to it to where there's no fat in it. Of course, we need fat. So freeze drying isn't the only thing you should be doing for your stores. It's a good part of it because we have a lot of things have meat in it, like our beef bourguignon, the biscuits and gravy, bolognese, penne bolognese that we do. So there is a lot of meat in it. You just can't take a piece of fat or a strip of bacon and freeze dry it. It's just not going to work. But what it does is, if you're not familiar with the term sublimation, okay, and what that's doing, it means you're taking a frozen, what's the word I'm looking for? It's basically taking frozen water. It's taking water in its frozen state and turning it to a gas state without becoming a liquid state.
Okay.
So, and it does it through heating and cooling at certain intervals and under different atmospheres. So it's got a vacuum pump and it's sealed, so it creates its own atmosphere to where that can happen without going through that state. So it's pulling that water out. Basically, it's taking it and removing it, and then it freezes in these drums. So it takes the moisture out of it, and it can last, depending on the food, for over 20 years, 25. But it has to be stored correctly. You've got oxygen absorbers in there, and because moisture is what causes bacteria to grow. Mm-hmm. So if you've got moisture, and there's always going to be moisture, and if you've got oxygen and those two get together, you have problems. So
well, now I have some more questions on this front, because one thing I really like about your products there is that you actually have the graphics of what is in there, because it's easy to lose track of what you have, and because you get a lot of stuff, whereas you have right on the front the illustrations. That's she's eating there. The illustrations of what you are going to make when you add the water and reconstitute it, right?
Right.
Now because I know everybody knows the Monty Python skit, spam, 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 spam. And the reason for that is because spam was a canned meat that was sent en masse to England during World War II. So the English people were able to get fat and meat and supplemental protein supplies through the mass importation of the Hormel spam can, right? And so spam was eaten with every food, because you could have your potatoes, you could have your veggies, but then you'd have spam with it, right? The spam with everything, because it was that. So how long does canned spam last? And what of alternatives? If you don't like spam, what are your alternatives?
Well, the thing with spam, what was the first year they ran their first production? They ran their first production in like 1930, late 30s or something. And I hear they're going to do their second run next year.
Well, what about, beef jerky, and what about other meat substitutes? And of course, there's also certain beans that are protein filled.
I'm not a nutritionist by any means, but beef jerky, what you're doing there is you're dehydrating it. Mm-hmm. And there's a big difference between dehydrating and freeze drying. Both of them are removing moisture, but they're doing it in two different ways. Dehydrating, you're basically cooking it at a temperature, a low heat temperature for a long time until it just basically dries out as much as it can. But it doesn't remove all the water. It doesn't remove it like freeze drying does. So when you dehydrate something, you can vacuum seal it and whatever, and it'll last a little longer. But most people, in my experience, which I haven't done a lot of dehydrating, but you get 6 months to a year out of something that's dehydrated if you package it correctly. As far as meat substitutes, one of the things back in the day, the settlers and the explorers and so forth, one of their main protein and fat sources was a food called pemmican that they made. And basically what that was is cooking down meat and then rendering down beef fat or tallow, and then mixing that together in like a 50-50 solution and allowing it to, I don't know if they had to heat it or smoke it or dry, how they got it to dry, but that would last at room temperature. They would throw that in their packs, and that was their source of protein and energy, was 50-50 the protein and the fat. And you can find recipes for pemmican online all day long. It's something that's come back. I don't think it's a real tasty food, but it is. As far as other meat substitutes, there's recipes out there for making Spam that is actually kind of a variation of making pemmican, but it's apparently a lot better than the canned stuff that Hormel put out. But
I don't mind the Spam. Between you and me, I never had a problem with it. I always had it with but of course when I was growing up, we weren't exactly rolling in the dough, and so we had to have Spam. Occasionally, we'd have Spam with pineapple, canned pineapple, which is always a good combination.
Yeah, I remember that growing up.
And it's funny because my wife's from the Philippines, and Spam is very loved in the Philippines. Not that we eat it ever, almost, but I don't mind it at all. But it's all according to taste. One thing I would also suggest is that you get quality, that you get something that is, and I understand that there's something to be said for, buy a year's worth of food for $2,000, right? And it's dirt cheap, but it also tastes like dirt. And I understand if you were starving and you actually had to use it, you would do it. You would eat it, right? However,
That's not always true.
Not always true. However, I would say that some appetizing, get the best one that you can. Try your foods out before you start storing them and buying them in mass.
And a lot of these foods that you see, and do your own research. Our food has absolutely nothing that is any type of added filler, added soy, anything. It is food that you cook, that you would eat at your dinner table, and then it is freeze dried.
Right.
The only thing that's added to it is salt and pepper, whatever herbs or seasonings that I use for the taste. The Chipotle chili. Well, it's going to have, some spices and herbs and stuff in it. Pretty much everything's got spices and herbs in it. But a lot of these will have, just artificial preservatives and flavorings. And it's funny. And I don't want to mention any names, but it's arguably the most known freeze-dried product. And on the front of it, it'll say no preservatives or artificial flavorings. And you turn over, and in the ingredients, it reads artificial, some type of artificial flavoring in it. It's like, which one is it? So that's one of the things about our foods.
Well, food and water are essential, obviously, for long-term survival. Having enough food on hand in a freeze-dried format, along with water, and I suggest having a chlorine, a large amount, like a couple gallons of chlorine around that's pure chlorine that you can, and you know the proper recipe to purify, as well as a couple big Berkey water filters, having enough food on hand. Those are kind of your bottom line basics, so ability to prepare them. And but I'd also recommend Prepare, which is the handbook for individual freedom, about the top of the pyramid stuff, about preparing yourself spiritually so that you have the proper mindset, and so that if crisis hits you, it doesn't become that you understand what you're dealing with. And I think that we are so wrapped up in our internet, in our phones, in our everyday rat race, that we need to separate ourselves out and say, okay, look at the big picture. Who are you? How do you exist in society? What group are you in? Is your family relationships or your finances, and doing a top to bottom assessment of, are you truly free? And is that freedom sustainable? So I please do get I wrote this book for a reason, and it is because I think there's a hole in the prepper community at that top of the pyramid. It's not enough. Like, Fast Group even said, people have this illusion they're going to get their gun, they're going to get on their four-wheeler or whatever and go out into the national forest and hunt deer and live off the land, right? It is a fantasy. And I understand it appeals to that American sense of the frontier. It almost defines the American character. But in a population of 330 million people, that is not going to be sustainable. That's not going to work. So you need to instead look at things from a different perspective. I guess that's all I can say. And please do yourself a self-assessment.
I agree. And that is one of the things, people will buy these, even ours, we have all of our products individual, and then we have what we call a 72-hour box. And it's a box of food that 3 meals a day, not just an entree. So they're not packaged together, but you take the beef bourguignon, you take a package of the rice, and you take a package of the vegetables, and you get all of those heated up. And now I just
bought that. That's what I bought, one of those.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. In fact, we have another comment too, and that's a good example I told about, powdered chlorine. That's another good example. Pool, the big bits of pool chlorine, that's much stronger, much more concentrated. The thing you got to be careful on that is storage, because you can create chlorine gas, which is highly poisonous. So you want to make sure that the problem with that is that it's stored in a way that's not, if it gets wet or it gets in a particular, it doesn't gas you out. So some of these things are dangerous chemicals. It's like with a generator. People have generators. Now, I highly recommend the quietest generator you can get. I prefer the Honda generators, which are the ones that RVers use, because when hurricanes hit and the power's out, all of a sudden it's noisy as hell. Get a quiet generator, one that you can handle portably, that's relatively easy. But also, what was that? But also the big thing is, it's also cause of death is people start their stupid generators in their garages and it gasses them out.
Yep. Carbon monoxide. That's absolutely right. But I see a lot of people will store the food, but they don't pay near enough attention to the water. And water doesn't go bad if it is basically, if you buy gallons of water and you leave them sealed in their original containers in normal, 70, 75 degree temperature range, it's not going to go bad. What's going to go bad is the tap water or the rainwater or something that you've done, and then you've added it to a container and sealed it up.
Yeah.
So those studies show, and it ranges from 1 to 2 years. And of course, CDC, FEMA, all these organizations they recommend 5 to 8 drops per gallon of water of just normal bleach. And I believe it's hypocarbonate. I think it's hypocarbonate is the active ingredient in bleach. And there's 2 different strengths. and one is lower, and they recommend the higher. And that also depends on the turbidity of the water, how clear it is.
Mhm.
You know, and boiling water. You know, if you can filter and boil it, you know, if you continue to have a source of heat, I mean, that's another thing. Besides water, you need a source of heat.
Yeah.
You know,
So
I mean,
I'm enjoying the hell out of you listening to you guys just talk back and forth because you're both knowledgeable. But a couple things. One with the food, because Shenny's been talking about it nonstop. So she said she said from your food and we were in discussion in Discord the other day. Yours takes considerably less water to rehydrate it, which is always a good thing. If you need less of a resource, it's better to, than some of the bigger guys. So I think that's pretty cool too. And then
I don't know
another thing.
I don't know if that has to do with fillers or preservatives or ingredients and other stuff. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I know we get to a moisture percent of 0, and then you can weigh it before and weigh it after, do the math and say, okay, this amount kind of needs this. But anytime we make something new, we try it and we kind of do the math and then actually try it and eat it and figure out how much water you need to reconstitute it.
Gotcha.
And that's what we suggest on the back in the directions.
Okay, cool. Another thing is, with Steve's generator point, if you are the only person on the block that seems to be doing something and having your shit together, then other people are going to target you for that. So,
Right.
If
Absolutely.
solar's an option, go for solar. I mean, I know it's not always, but if you can use a quieter generator, it's only going to help you. If we get into when humans get desperate, they're incredibly dangerous, and that's one thing that is a concern. Real quick, can you demonstrate how to make a fire from basic materials on your desk? I've done that before, and my wife did not approve that. Comer, I guarantee it.
I was reading somewhere that somebody was like Stone Age people, and they met Stone Age people who became integrated into our modern society. And that one of those people was asked, what is the most amazing invention of all the technologies that you've now seen after you come out of this Amazonian Stone Age tribal environment, and now you come into the cities? And what's the most amazing technological thing? And the answer was the match.
Huh.
Which is an interesting observation, because think about how difficult it is to get a fire out in the Amazon if you're in the Stone Age. And then here you have this little stick that you just go immediate fire.
Have you ever tried to make a fire with a bow and drill?
No, no. I've tried fires different ways, but not that way, because if I'm in that position, I'm in trouble.
I've tried it a little bit, and I've yet to be successful, but I haven't done it earnestly. I typically do it with steel and a ferro rod.
Well, this is what we're talking about, repelling borders and generators and that sort of thing. Yes, solar panels, having power when nobody else doesn't, is an attractive target.
Right.
However, I would say that has to do with community and community relations. Another thing that if you're very wealthy, that you can do is prep not just for yourself and your family, but for your nearby community. So bartering and also just sustaining. Okay, if you've read the book called Alas, Babylon, it's a great book, and it was founded in the book was located. It was a theoretical nuclear war situation, and the people were in out here in Central Florida, where they have the art festival, Lake. What was it? I don't know. Anyway, over here in Central Florida, and they what the person did is first thing they did was they said go out and like getting extra water filters, giving your neighbors a big Berkey water filter system, for example. investing in a hand pump well, for example, that you can give the community so the people can come and use your well in a water situation. Those are kind of things that you can do that that would assist long-term survival in your local community and allow for more community. It's interesting because, well, there's some observations, there's some chapters here about hurricanes. When hurricanes go through and everything gets wiped, people get exceptionally friendly and exceptionally generous and courteous, but that only lasts for a little bit, and then you devolve into another situation. Hopefully we won't ever deal with that, but if we do, you got to think through it.
Yeah. Well, so for example, I think it's different based on how much you have to begin with. I don't know. Probably several factors. But when I used to be in federal law enforcement, we also did trainings and we did deployments with FEMA because we had skills and we were available. I've been to hurricanes here in Texas, Florida, responding, and I've also been to Haiti for the earthquake, and the difference was night and day between the two. Just desperate people with nothing to begin with that now have more nothing, and Haiti is, as opposed to Texas or Florida, where some lives were interrupted, but that there's relief coming at some point. It's a completely different dynamic. So I feel like the further we go down the track of things not being, the further we go down the track of being away from normalcy, makes that more and more difficult to maintain. So,
it does, and I think if something drastic does happen, there's a lot of people aren't going to make it. They're just not going to make it.
Yeah.
And what is the saying? I forget who said it. You're only 9 meals away from chaos or disaster or whatever. Go 3 days without food and you're going to get desperate.
Yeah.
So it's, 9 meals without food, and it's chaos.
Desperation's scary on people. It really is.
It is, because like Steve said, everybody in the cities, more than the rural areas, are almost completely dependent on the government in a great percentage of their daily life.
Mm-hmm.
But
I know that another observation, and this goes to the urban-rural divide, and where is it that you want to be, and that is that people, I don't think that there's this idea of the golden horde, that the populations from the cities will flee en masse to the countryside upon some significant event, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that is that's another speculation and prediction that I'm not sure if it would ever come to pass. You may find the oddball that you have to defend, but as far as a mass migration, you didn't see that in the German hyperinflation, and you didn't see that in Argentina. That generally doesn't happen. Generally, people that are dependent on the city for all of their means do not flee to the countryside. They don't see that as a way out. It becomes an interior predatory thing where the city collapses from within. So how far away from the city do you need to be? If that's your strategy, I don't know. But as far as the golden horde idea, I discounted that a little bit. I think you do want to be relatively near, and as we get older, you want to be relatively near medical care. And this again goes to against the idea of retreating into the wilderness with your rifle and your backpack and surviving, because I'm already beyond the age at which I should be alive in most societies, right? I'm 56, and people didn't live that long before, and the reason we live that long is because of civilization and medical care and good supplies and good health and safe environments, etc. So the fact is that me fleeing into the woods would put me in the environment in which my life would be short. So that option isn't really there. It's good. It's a good idea for the young and when they're speculating. But when we talk about existing in, as a long-term situation, you need to think more realistically, because in the past, our lives were much shorter.
Agreed. Yeah, that's, you get a lot of these people talking about everybody's going to be fleeing from the cities. I think the people who are going to flee are the ones that are able to. And the ones that are able to are probably the ones that are less likely to be a threat to you. They're wanting to escape the threats of violence, because the vast majority of the inner city where the crime takes place anyway, people don't have vehicles. They don't have skills to leave the city and to survive for any amount of time.
And that's why community is important, because the community, to be able to defend against the odd criminal gang invasion, would be required. Oh, look there. Boy, prepped by not a prepper. She's got all my books.
I know.
Oh, that's so wonderful. Thank you very much. That's so sweet. Well, I have returned to Fayetteville. I've bought my 3-day package of food from Fast Group, and
Awesome.
I'm looking forward to getting it. I also threw in there some berries, because you can also use those berries. There it is. You can also use those berries. Oh man, and I forgot the discount code. Oh well, there's a discount code associated too, right?
I don't think so. I'd have to
is
ask
that
her.
not- Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm thinking about something else. I'm in a sort of a what have you prepped lately kick today. But also, can I promote? I've got to duck out here. I have some stuff here, but I have to go, and I wanted to promote my stream tonight. Oops. Hey, hi everybody. I wanted to promote my stream tonight. I'm going to be talking about Gramscian damage. I think that's what it's called, Gramscian damage. I had a stream with Will Parker from Montana, who's a firearms instructor from Montana.
Okay.
And I will say that he's a good guy, and we talked about stockpiling ammunition. But I wanted to also address Gramscian damage, but he's such a good guest. I took the whole hour and talked to him about stockpiling ammunition. So if you want to see that stream, that's over my Rumble YouTube channel. And tonight at 8:00 Eastern Standard Time, I'll be finishing that idea. And there's a little essay that I'm going to be going through about the Marxist ideology and the Marxist attacks on the United States and how we have internalized them, and discuss those internal arguments that are really meant to undermine our society. So it ought to be an interesting stream. But just take me. This is your stream. Stop.
I was just giving you the floor.
When is that? When is that, Steve?
Tonight at 8:00.
Will that be on Rumble or YouTube or both?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah, and Twitter. Actually, I'm trying to. I don't know what to do. Yeah, they're Rabbit. Thank you, Rabbit. So, anyways, I'll talk to you later. I've got a couple things I got to do around the house here. I'm being
being summoned. Well, I appreciate you coming on, Steve. It's good to see you, buddy. Thank you.
Great to see you, Mighty. And it was nice. And he's got a beautiful family, and I love. I'm looking forward to getting the Fast Group stuff. And thank you for getting all my books. You make my heart pitter patter when I see somebody have all my books. And Brucey, the One-Eyed Wonder Dog, my children's book. We talk about training the younger kids. It's a Christian values-based story, children's book, kind of an early reader thing that you can read to your children. And that I'm going to have a pre-stream announcement party or pre-release announcement party. It's going to be a big bash where we're going to want everybody to get it for whatever young children and parents you have in your life. It'll be out for Christmas, and I'm aiming to get the hardback shipped out by Thanksgiving. So looking forward to that. So that's coming up too. But thank you very much for everything. And I got to go.
All right. Good to see you, Steve. Take care, buddy. All right. So it's me and you, Fast.
And if Shinny wants to jump on here and give us an honest opinion of what she ate, that would be awesome.
Yeah. Why don't we do that? I don't know if Shinny's around. Let's
She's
not
there.
just throw her on the spot. So.
Yeah. That's why I said if she wants.
Shinny, if you can hear us, why don't you 2 minutes. Okay. Fantastic. So we'll talk for a minute. So one of my biggest questions and takeaways, because I want to think of how this happened so we can restrict it from happening again in the future. And
What's
that is how did we get here? How do we allow so much control over the government, and not only control, but there's so much reliance on the government. We see it with agencies like FEMA, or we see it like in everyday life. People cannot rely on anything but the government. They have to have the government there to take care of them at every turn. And
I think
it's
a lot of it is human nature. This didn't happen in the last 2 decades.
yeah,
You know, the early turn of the 20th century, we already had the progressivism movement. I mean, everybody talks about Roosevelt. Roosevelt was a progressivist.
Mhm.
You know, Woodrow Wilson. You know, in the late 1800s. I think it started the day after the Constitution was ratified.
you think so? You think that early?
We've been trying to delve in a lot to the Constitution, the evolution of the country, the evolution of government, progressivism, how, you know, early liberals versus progressives, and what that's turned into today. It's human nature. People want power, or at least a certain percentage of the population want power. It's all they knew, and all they know. We've all heard that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's true. I think there's very few truly honorable people that seek power to solely benefit the whole,
mm-hmm.
and not for themselves, because those people don't really have power. Our form of government had never been tried before in history. Everybody wants to say we're a democracy. We're not a democracy. We never have been a democracy. Right. We were founded on a constitutional republic where, for the first time, it did 2 things. I guess it's all in one. It gave the power to the people and not the ruling class. So the ruling class, meaning the government. I guess ruling class isn't the correct term. The government. They split the government into 3 branches so that no part of the government could become tyrannical. And it gave the people the power to dissolve that government. Read the Declaration of Independence. Read the preamble to the Constitution. It says it is the responsibility of the people that if the government gets out of control, to either change it or abolish it and bring in one that is more for the people. It's all about the people to be in power. And that's what the government has been trying to get rid of since day one.
Yeah.
Because remember, it's not like everybody was on board with the Constitution that eventually got ratified in 1791. You had the Federalist group and you had the Anti-Federalist. So there had to be a compromise between the two. So it's not been like 100% of the new free population in the United States was on board with that Constitution. They fought over it since the ending of the war. That's why we had the whole Articles of Confederation that Madison, John Jay. Who were the 3 people that wrote that?
Articles of Confederation was Jefferson, Madison, and
John Jay, right?
John Jay. Yeah.
John Jay, I believe, was the first Supreme Court justice. I believe
so. Yeah.
So there were 2 sides of that. The whole reason that those were being written was to convince the people that we needed to pass the Constitution because it gave more power to the government than the Articles of Confederation Federalist Papers. That's the Federalist Papers is what I was trying to talk
Yeah.
about. The Articles of Confederation is what we were operating under after the end of the Revolutionary War, up until we got the U.S. Constitution. And the Federalist Papers were the ones written by those three guys to convince the population it needed to be ratified, because it was passed in 1788, but it wasn't ratified. All the states didn't ratify it until 1791.
Right. And that was a big portion of it, is explaining what we had gotten to, what kind of compromise we had, and what to do moving forward. You get that argument of, well, you shouldn't be able to own an AR-15. Well, one, an AR-15 is not the big scary rifle you think it is.
No,
Two,
it's not. It's not. It's no.
Two, somebody wrote in and asked if they could own cannons still, and it was very clear. Why the hell are you writing us that? It shall not be infringed means shall not be infringed. Yes, you can have a cannon. So it was to provide clarity to what happened in those meetings. It was to provide a transparency that we haven't seen since. So,
well, yeah, and I think there's some very good things that's been happening, quite frankly, since Trump was president, because people don't realize what Trump did is he appointed a lot of federal judges,
right,
to the federal, not only the federal district courts, but to the appeals courts as well. And then, of course, we've got the three judges that he put in the Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
And even before Trump, because Heller was in 2008, then 2010 was McDonald. And then in 2022, last year, we got Bruen. And that's when Bruen said, look, let's shout this out loud for those in the back. Text, history, and tradition. And you use strict scrutiny, not interest balancing, for those decisions. And yet, what's his nuts in California just signed in, I believe, 23 new gun control bills. New York, they're going to go back because everything they're doing is an end around.
Yeah,
you know, the magazine ban that California has in 2019. Judge Benitez ruled it unconstitutional. So he kicked it up to a 3-judge panel at the appellate court, and that 3-judge panel in the 9th district said, yeah, you're right. It is. It is unconstitutional. Well, then immediately the 9th appellate court did an en blanc panel, which is all 11 justices. And they reversed it. Mm-hmm. Well, they just did it again. And the Supreme Court bounced it back down to Benitez to clarify it under Bruen. And he did a 72-page, what's the word I'm looking for? Brief. A 72-page brief, and cited everything of why it was unconstitutional. And it basically referred back to the Supreme Court on every one of them. This is why it's unconstitutional. And so the state attorney appealed to the 9th district. Well, instead of going to a 3-judge panel like it's supposed to, they went to be en banc, the entire panel, because they're going to say it's unconstitutional. They're going to say, no, it is constitutional. It's going to have to go back to the Supreme Court. They're openly defying the Supreme Court. New York's doing the same thing, where, okay, we got to let you have guns, but we're going to say that every place in the city or any place in the state is a sensitive area, so you can't carry there. Basically, you know.
Well, it's the same thing that's going on in New Mexico right now. So.
Yeah, but New Mexico only tried to do it in one county.
Right.
You know, that was just a test run. New York's doing it for the entire state.
But there was a new update on that one where they declared it unconstitutional, but said it could be enforced in certain locations. So they said it was unconstitutional, but then ended around it and said, "Yep, you can ban it in, I think, public parks," and there were a couple more.
Yeah, I don't know who said that was, but that's not the history, text, and tradition.
Yeah.
Let's
And
get back to the initial question for a moment, if I can interrupt. I'm sorry.
Okay.
No, we were just waiting on you. We were just bullshitting until we
Well,
got to
I
you.
was muted. Who knew? But we have
Let
to
me-
know these things. Here's
Shenny, let me get to something real quick because I haven't got to it yet. Fiery, thank you for super chat, buddy. Popping in on work break, panel and chat. All right, you're good now.
Oh, Rad. Thank you. So anyhow, how did we get to this state? After the Constitution was drawn up, the people said they are our leaders, not our elected officials.
Mhm.
That's how it got screwed up. You want your rights back? Vote for your rights back. Start at the bottom, change in the center, change at the top. That's how you start getting things back, to let them know, screw you, I'm not buying what you're selling me. I want my life back. You have to go ahead and just listen to what I want, not tell me what you think I need, because you're over there living the plush fucking life. Sorry.
you know, I
You're
don't,
good.
Doing so good, and it just came out. I'm sorry.
I don't know.
You're good.
Can't go.
I'm not convinced that we can vote our way out of this. I'm not convinced that my vote even counts.
Not initially, we can't. Not initially, we can't. You're right. It doesn't, and it can't. And until everybody says, "Wait a minute," everybody I spoke to, out of 100 people, 2 admit they voted for Biden. Wait.
Well,
I speak to people all day, every day, and do I seem shocking? Is it shocking that I might bring up the state of our world to people? It shouldn't be. If so, you haven't met me. But the whole thing is, I have absolutely no problem bringing it up and saying, well, you know what? Everybody's wanting this world economy, apparently, and everybody or this world law. Everybody voted for it because that's what Biden stands for. Him and only him and his family, and everybody voted for him because he's our president. I'm sorry, I'm not a little no penis piss ant Democrat that says not my president. Somebody says that the number said Biden won. Great, he's our fucking president. Okay, again, sorry, baby.
I went 90 minutes without saying the F word, and you've dropped 2. You know how hard that is for me?
it's going to be a record.
But
I know.
The whole thing is that, he is our effing president. Okay? So don't say not. He is. But all these people must have voted. Therefore, this is what the majority wants. Stay off of my yard then. Because when all hell breaks loose, and the reason I came on right when I did, one of my neighbors own a cannon and they shoot it off annually just to keep it in good working condition. You can hear that sucker for 20 miles because I live up on top of a hill. It is so cool. So anyway, there, I summed up. I'm going to try and not cuss anymore. Go for it, baby.
No, you're good. A couple things to add to that, and I'll add a couple interesting things that I didn't have anywhere to throw in, so to hell with it, we'll throw it in here. So we're starting to get some of these leaks of confirmations. So one of them, the Biden regime reportedly ordered FBI to conduct knock and talk visits to the homes of 100,000 Trump supporters when mainstream media and fact checkers try to debunk the reports. Blah, blah, blah. But it's true, and we have Politico and Newsweek saying Trump supporters are highly likely to try and kill people in 24. So they're trying to stop MAGA terrorism. So we have a confirmed report that they have sent over 100,000 people to knock on doors to check up on people, which is tyrannical. It's tyranny.
It's more than that, and not only that. But you just had Hillary Clinton. Why is she even relevant in the news today? Saying that all MAGA deranged MAGA nuts need to be re-educated.
Well, we've heard that a couple times now.
Because
and
Biden is not in control, and even if he was, he'd just be repeating it. But you've got two people in control of this country. Well, not counting the hidden 8 or 16, whatever. You've got two people who are actually telling the presidential office what to do, and one was never a president. Though she was married to one, and the other one was a president who promised us change, and all he did was change shit to pedal faster. Fred just pedaled faster from the moment he became president, and we've gone to hell in a faster handbag.
Okay, so here's another report that just broke a little bit ago.
I haven't seen these.
Breaking Department of Defense consultant says that the United States Space Force, like Mike Lindell was saying the whole time, and people were calling him crazy, has proof that the 2020 election was stolen, but that the information was withheld from the public in order to avoid outbreak of civil war. So
Well,
they
no,
know it was stolen.
Because
Right.
they're afraid of all these little pussy piss ants living in a cement city who don't know where to get their toilet paper when the store doesn't have it. And you know what? It was a human test, folks. Just like it was with the chicken feed and the eggs, it was a human test. What will you allow with your vote? Because they took away your toilet paper and they couldn't present enough. They you know, the poor makers of them were saying, I'm trying to make them as quickly as possible, but you know, he has supplies, and then there was the trucking thing and lockdown. Everybody's fearful, so they make it a thing, and then they come along and they screw with the chicken feed. Unfortunately, people feed their chicken feeds instead of just raw diets that comes off of everybody else's plate and whatever worms are in the backyard, because most people's backyards are no longer 40 friggin' acres. Look at me watching that word right there. So because of it, you have feed. Feed should be trusted. The food you get should be trusted. Oh, can I wrap this back around here just because I can? So a moment ago, y'all just saw me eat some of the best friggin' food and then show you a sample packet from somebody else. Okay, so I put into chat, I don't know where it went, the ingredients that were in my biscuit and gravy, and I'll find that here in a moment. And then everybody on chat may have seen me show how much ingredients are in the other companies. And it sounds like, okay, so we have noodles, semolina, wheat, ricin, iron, thiamine, and they start going through a whole lot of different things: artificial flavors, cornstarch, salt, silicone dioxide, gum. You know what? Fast group, none of these words that I don't know what the frig are in them was not in yours.
No, ma'am.
Thank you, because I get really tired after like the third ingredient. I'm over it. My ADHD is already out walking grandkids. So I'm just saying thank you for making it so simple, and this one didn't. So anyway, go ahead. It's back to you.
And that was the whole reason and it was actually, you know, my wife was the one that really wanted to do the freeze drying. I was kind of skeptical at the beginning. I was like, you know, what do we have to offer, you know, to compete with these bigger companies? And it just came down to taking good food and freeze drying it without preservatives, without artificial this and artificial that. Making good, elegant type food. You know, I mean, we could have absolutely made some simple beef stew instead of making beef bourguignon.
I'm just gonna say this is not just beef stew, even though I will overly simplify it. I will say beef stew. It is not just beef stew. It is a party in the mouth. Okay, you have to, and go ahead, baby. You have to understand. I got this size for 2 reasons. I have a thyroid problem. I own it. It was given to me by generations of the humans before me, and I friggin' like food. I just don't want that being missed. Okay, so I really was like, okay, this is just going to be the, hey, things are rough. The stores are out of food. And, I've got a year's supply already of freeze dried food. Right. And I have tried some of it. And okay, I haven't told any of my friends to go buy it. If they want to talk about it, we'll talk about it. That's not a problem. So then you come along and I don't even know, you weren't shilling your shit here, Vern. And I just went ahead and went, well, we're talking about him. He's being sweet. He's in my chat. I'll go ahead and I'll go over and I'll try some. It's going to be my grocery bill for the month, but I'll go ahead and try some. Oh my God. No, I don't even know. The chili was the first thing I tried. And I'm going to be honest, because there is a cost, because you have a lot that you have to go through. And I thought, you know what? I don't know that I'm going to like it. I'm going to try half of it first. I tried half of it, and I was either in Discord or doing a live. I don't know which one. And when I was done, the half of it, I was full. Okay, you have to understand, I can go to a restaurant and eat like a great big, whatever I order is based on, okay, chat, you're going to get to know me here because I'm going to own this. I don't lie about who I am. I order based on how much food I can get on a plate, because I'm going to eat all that food on the plate. So I ate half of this delicious chipotle chili as my first time. Noticed it's empty. I only ate half of it and I was full. And I knew I ate healthy and well because I was full. And I was like, oh, I don't have to eat the other half. So I ate the second half for lunch the next day. Again, I was full. The yogurt, I did a brick, and then I did another brick. Because at first I'm like, yogurt? Wait. And I was like ready to go, dude, you missed out. No, everybody who doesn't have these missed out. Now, today I use ice cold water. And then stupid me, I forgot there was granola in it. And I was wondering why the chunks weren't going away. There's granolas in it, stupid. Mm-hmm. But the yogurt is absolutely delicious. I did find, because I used the big, I showed you the containers I use. So I had to tilt it and then let the water soak in, and then flip the pad and then break it up a little bit and let the water soak in. It is so, it's yogurt with strawberries and granola. And, he's got 3 bars in a bag. You get 3 bars in a bag. So if there's 3 folks eating, I'm going to tell you that's enough, because each bar, I am the queen of, I can inhale food like you ain't never seen. I can eat a large pizza by myself. And I taught my daughter well. She could too, though she was the size of a toothpick. I made sure to feed people well. If something goes wrong and you have these, you have more than 3 days of food. If it's just you, if it is just you, or if it's others, order the 3-day for each as a minimum, because you will get by for a week if you do this right. It is delicious. Again, today you saw me with the biscuits and gravy. I'm just going to keep talking, because if you don't have a fucking commercial, sorry, third strike. If you don't have a commercial out there, you should consider it, because I wasn't sure about the biscuit and gravy. I'm sorry. My people are Southern and they do biscuit and gravy. Well, you know who else's people must be Southern? Yours. Because I was like, I'm like, I don't know that I want to try this biscuits and gravy. That's why I went ahead and did the yogurt, because I knew I liked the yogurt. And I'm like, I'm not really sure. The biscuits and gravy was ready. And I'm like, do I eat the second half of this biscuits and gravy right now? Because this is delicious. It's not just a stew, folks. You're getting all kinds of good stuff. Hello, Miss Fast Group. Thank you so much. I'm just, and I could tell it was your writing on the container. So thank you so much.
He's in San Diego.
Yes, I know. I have to meet you. You have just been such a queen about doing all the I mean, you're doing all this stuff like it's your food, and because
I don't lie. When I see something good, when I see something good, I'm like, hey, you got to do this. Hey, you got to do this. And I am so glad that, because I was like, I can ask him on, and I'm not really good. I mean, as you can tell, I take over the whole talk. Look, Mighty's like, screw it, I'm out. Right? Because I just take all over. And so I'm not like good at doing interviews. That's what Mighty does. He's got that part. I've got I'm just going to run with it. And I'm telling you, when I told Mighty, oh my God, you've got to get some of this. It's delicious. He's like, okay, I'll go ahead and I'll get ahead of a Hold the Fast group and I'll have him on. I'm like, well, I was thinking about doing that too. Good. Go for it. He's like, oh no, I'll let you. I'm like, don't you dare. You do it, because I knew that Mighty would do it so much better. And then it's like, because I'm on the West Coast and I will sleep all day. I had just gotten up. Thank God I brushed my hair. I was drinking my coffee and I went, oh my God, Mighty's show is coming on. I got 5 minutes to get everything up and act like a mod. Right, which I'm not really a mod. I wanted a special helmet and he gave me a wrench. And so I feel obligated to like try and do Ridgy stuff. And so I'm just like, and I'm like, well, wait, I'm getting ready to go ahead and do breakfast. So I DM'd him real quick and said, look, I won't come on. I'll just do the camera. I'll mute myself. Can you tell why I had to tell him that? I'm like, I will mute myself and I'll just show that I'm going to prep a couple of meals and I'm going to eat them. And I think I was muted pretty long. But I'm just saying I'm not lying to anybody. If you know me, I'm not. If all else fails, I can't pick a favorite. I cannot. I mean, the beef, I got a piece that had the meat was delicious. There was a little bit of fat on it that burst in my mouth when I chomped down on it, and I just went like whoo right over the. I'm old, and I sometimes the O comes in different forms, and so anyway, I'm just gonna say.
I never told Tony his food was orgasmic. Can I say that? But it's real close. He does. He's a good chef. He really is.
Seriously, try one thing. Pick between. I'm just gonna pick two of the favorites right now. Pick between this or that, and just order that. And then let it make you decide if you want to go into the investment of the 3-day meal and understand that you'll be hooked. And if you manage to keep it for an emergency, let me know, because I'm going on a new diet plan. Tony, you have to add more things into your menu, because I need 2 weeks worth of food so that I can seriously mix it all up. This is a great week. I need more. Okay.
Two things that we did. You mentioned earlier that, there was more than 3 days worth of food. Mm-hmm. We didn't want to say that. We wanted to say this is 3 days worth of food. And then that person get it and go, holy crap, it's more than this. You got more than what you paid for. And also, most of those other places, let's take the biscuits and gravy. If you got it from someplace else, they would call that 2 servings. We call it 1 serving.
Oh, see, I haven't even looked at their basket to see.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, the size package that we get, they'll say that's 2 servings. And they're going to be as much, if not more, than our products. And again, it's got stuff in it that we don't put in it.
Tastes like sawdust.
Yeah, it tastes. It does.
I'm just going to tell you.
We did a comparison in the beginning between one of the major brands and what we did, and it just wasn't a comparison. And the other one, after it's set for a couple of minutes, turned to glue.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Get a home wallpaper with it.
Yeah, no, you know how it's RMEs or it used to be ready to eat meals, right?
MREs.
Okay, yeah. So anyway, those used to not allow you to go to the latrine, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know.
these don't stop you from visiting a very important room, folks. And so that means your innards are going to like them as well. I'm
Yeah.
not giving any medical advice. I am just giving you taste buds advice. This old fat lady loves this food. So no matter what, you're not going to get me to shut up about it. That's good luck.
Well, okay, and here's another thing we did. We wanted to make our meals also modular. Okay, so we have just pulled pork, that I smoked on the smoker for 16 hours, and we've got rice, and we've got chicken and mushroom risotto. That's kind of a meal, but you can pair that with other stuff.
I ate it as a whole meal. I ate the chicken and risotto rice as a whole meal. It is a meal.
Like the beef bourguignon, it's an entree. It's not the whole meal. You can take the basmati rice, cook the rice, cook the beef bourguignon, and you've got a vegetable packet or a fruit packet. And you can cook up the vegetables, put the bourguignon over the rice, and eat vegetables. I guarantee you 2 people could eat that for a meal.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. Exactly.
Or you could eat half of it and refrigerate the other half and eat it the next day.
And it's not going to go weird. The veggies were they were not like, they were like, oh, hello, I'm a vegetable. And so like,
they need to be cooked a little bit longer than I think what the instructions say.
I don't know. I'm just saying, well, see, and now I will admit that I go ahead and put the water on it and go off and do something and go, oh, shoot. And I come back like 15 minutes. First of all, I can't eat anything really hot. So I know, Mads, I so want to try. Okay, look, you know what? I want to try these freeze-dried friggin' Skittles. My mouth doesn't want me to because I just had the surgery on these. But what the heck is a freeze-dried Skittle? Please tell me. I'm so confused about the freeze-dried Skittle. Something went boom.
Yeah, she knocked some of my stuff over. You know what Skittles are, right?
Yes.
You've had a Skittle.
Yes.
Okay. Well, when you freeze dry them, they turn into a big puff of a.
Oh my goodness sake! It broke open and poofed up.
Yep. Yeah. And they're crunchy.
Oh my God! I can eat them like that right now. They won't stick to my teeth.
Do you taste them? No.
But another thing you can do.
Yes, my mouth is currently watering.
If another thing you can do is if you just put it in your mouth for just a couple of seconds, you don't have to crunch down on it. As soon as it hits the inside of your mouth, it starts to reconstitute itself and become softer. So you can either bite into it while it's crunchy or let it soften up a little bit.
I'm going to do just what she did. Okay, I will get some in my next order. It was so hard. My mouth was already hurting when I ordered. And so I talked myself out of ordering some of them. I think Dog Mama ordered some of them, but she's been on vacation, so I haven't been able to hear from her. And so it's like, well, here we are. Now I know I can eat them just like that without worrying about pulling my teeth apart. Because I'm old and long in the tooth makes a whole new thing when you find out there's no such thing as long as a tooth. It's just called bad mouth. So
I ask you,
not over.
Huh?
Not over.
Not over?
Not
oh,
over
we'll
what?
ask. Yeah, afterwards.
Ask what? No, I was going to ask what. May I call you Shinny?
Yes, that's what everybody does.
I want to take the time real quick to say thank you for everything you're doing. And thank you for opening the box and actually eating the food. Because his food is so good. Yes, it can be emergency, but it's also pantry. It's like, eat it for lunch. I mean,
Right. Well, see, that's it. When you're at the office, you got to have lunch.
You understand it. So thank you. I appreciate that.
No problem. Just give me more food. Make some eggs for scrambled eggs. Okay. Or so that I can also here's the thing about the eggs, because I'm sorry, Mighty. You just sit there. You lost
No,
your
I'm just-
show, baby.
I'm
Um,
working on something else. It's fine.
You
Just
go right
ahead.
But freeze dry some eggs, okay? And here's the reason why. And you might even be able to separate them. I know it's a pain, but they're better because I was saving eggs because you can glass bath eggs, right? So I
Right.
had them, but when you use them, they're not what everybody thinks
Right.
because everybody goes, oh, they're going to come out exactly. No, they're not going to come out exactly, you moron. But anyway, but they are usable. But you know what I've heard is that if you freeze dry eggs, okay, and y'all have the freeze dryer, and I want one, but I'm a poor white woman in California trying to make it on my own, and they're against me because I ain't even purple. So
We have tried. We have done eggs, and we have not
Rubbery.
we have not been able to do anything.
Unless it's mixed, like in a casserole.
Yeah,
And
no,
even
unless you're
small-
using it in
small
something.
pieces.
But just to have eggs, like scrambled eggs, and trying to freeze dry, like just freeze dry raw eggs, that doesn't work at all.
Let me try and reach out to somebody else and get them together with you on how to do that, or at least get instructions on how to do that. And here's the reason that I'm saying it is after she got her freeze dryer, she used to glass eggs also, and she made some scrambled eggs for her husband, and she made one out of both batches, and he picked the freeze dried batch as his favorite. Well, I'm like, okay, fine. Yeah, I could see me being lazy and going ahead and reconstituting them to make up for, a breakfast or something. But my big thing would be, I would want it to make up a casserole or, an egg, a cake thing or something like that.
Okay,
And it would be nice to be able to dip in for that.
Here's what we've come up with that we feel is the best option, at least that we have. And we're, we are a very small company. We only have a few
Right.
freeze dryers, so we are small batch. So we probably only have a couple of more of these 3-day boxes.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to start cooking a bunch.
Yeah, I think you're going to have to because
we-
I'm going to be ordering another one here real soon.
Okay. But what we found out is if we take raw eggs
Mhm.
and whip those up and freeze dry those raw eggs, basically we have powdered eggs.
Oh,
Right.
And then you take, if you open it up and you take 1 tablespoon of eggs and 2 tablespoons of water, you have one mixed up raw egg.
Right. And that's that.
And you
Yes, please put
and you
that
can
on your
scramble
menu.
that, and you can scramble that, or you can use that in a recipe for baking or cooking or
You have to cook it, but
Please put a dozen eggs, please put a dozen eggs so that I can purchase a dozen eggs just like this so that I can do just what you just said.
powdered eggs.
yeah.
Powdered eggs, just like that. I don't trust what others have, what the government used to provide us, but if I'm just saying,
I don't think we package them as a dozen.
I do. I have half a dozen and a dozen eggs.
And the reason
okay.
is,
Okay.
but here's
Yeah.
the thing.
You
Once
understand.
you break that seal,
Uh-huh.
you now have moisture and oxygen getting to that
But
food.
I've kept them in my pantry.
So
for a couple of weeks.
it's not going to last.
Well,
nearly as long.
okay.
So if you're going to use those dozen eggs within say a week or so, then that's not a big
Then
deal.
I'll do that. Right. Then I'll do that. But let me ask you, because I have my food sealer also, where it sucks
Mm-hmm.
out all of the air, and I put it in, a can. Can I suck the air out and make it last a month?
Unfortunately, it does not work on Mylar bags, which is what we package in.
Do you have jar attachment?
Yes,
Yeah.
I do. Yeah. I mean, you can't see them. They're hidden, but
It'll help. It'll help.
Hi, my name is Shinny, and I have a sealer problem.
Yeah.
Okay, just saying.
Container problem.
But again, it'll probably help. But again, once you open that up, you instantly get moisture into that food. Because
Right,
it's
that
in
makes
there.
sense. Uh-huh.
So, unless you're repackaging it with oxygen absorbers and
I'll put them
And-
back in there
Yeah,
Well-
that's a good idea. Put them in a jar. Yeah.
and,
Yeah,
and use the
those-
sealer. There you
those
go.
oxygen absorbers that you pull out of that bag,
Uh-huh.
they're done. They're done. They've taken all that they're going to take.
Oh, they're not going to take any more. So I should buy some because I will do that because it's just me. Okay. And it's like, I'm trying to figure out with it just being me and people who have their kids who are out of the house or who are trying to be prepared for quick meals when their kids come home. Because honey, when your kids hit that pre-teenage thing, you are going to have less than 15 minutes to feed them boys a lifetime of food in like 15 minutes. I'm just saying. So, to be able to like save it again for a week, for 2 weeks, that's all I need, and then I'll just, because I want to get through for a 2-week diet and then order up again. Basically, hello, grocery store. What are your hours? That's what I'm asking you there, Fast Group.
Hey, the website's 24/7.
So I'm just saying, everybody, I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to let Mighty take back his thing. I just, again, what Fast Group Foods is serving up is so worth it. I want people to know, and nobody was going to be able to have this conversation any better than Mighty. The only thing I'm good at is I'm fat, I got taste buds, and I eat a lot. And that's the only thing I have to do. So I'm going to go ahead and hit mute, let Mighty and Fast Group go back to talking. And I'm going to try and post his website all over the place again. Thank you, honey, for letting me do this.
On the website, the way that it's set up is they kind of, and I'm not sure if we have the suggestions on there about how to pair food together or not.
Some things we used
like,
to.
We have the red beans with andouille sausage, right? And then we have the basmati rice. Well, that is red beans and rice. If you put it together, a staple of Louisiana Cajun food.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's like, well, if you just want the beans and if you just want to eat rice sometime, then it's separate. But if you want red beans and rice, you just reconstitute both of them and put them together. It's the same. We did the same thing with the Chipotle chili and our smoky cheddar mac and cheese.
Right. Everything looks like it mixed together. I use some rice with the chili and then a little bit more rice with the stew. See, because, I can break it into 2 things.
Exactly.
All over.
And you put the chili and the mac and cheese together, you've got the best chili mac you've ever ate.
That's it.
In my opinion.
So I have a question. Do you have, can you do tuna? Because she just, I'm going to give it back to you. I really am. But a Southern meal that my mom used to make was called tuna-mato. Okay. We were not rich, but back then most people weren't. And so you make mac and cheese and you put a can of tuna in it, and then you put a can of stewed tomatoes in it. And mix it all together, and it's contrary to belief, it's tuna-mato, and it's great.
I say it would be doable. We haven't done it. I've never done tuna. Well, have I? Have I done a tuna salad? I've done chicken salad, and that's fine.
We've done chicken salad or just chicken?
Chicken salad.
I'm not sure. Yeah, but the chicken chicken's cooked.
Separate and then put them together.
The chicken is cooked.
Yes.
So I don't know about doing tuna.
I'd say it's doable. Well, I'll talk with you. I'll get back with you.
You never know. I just have ideas. You guys go back. Mighty, I'm done. Watch this, guys. Love you. Thank you. Here.
Thank you, Jen. Yes.
Gosney said that he ordered
Yes, there it is right there. Right.
Oh, is that what you brought out?
Yes, he ordered this afternoon.
Oh, and some berries.
Yeah, I wouldn't put Mr. Gosney on weight.
And then I think Shinny said that Dog Mama ordered something.
Yeah, this is the only one I've seen come through so far, but it's okay.
Oh, maybe she has.
But yeah, I definitely want to
that was like a week or two ago that Dog Mama ordered something.
I haven't seen anything.
I don't think so.
I haven't seen anything.
Yeah, you might want to check with her, make sure she did. And if she did, we missed it. So
yeah, she's been out of town too, but
somehow
I think she's. Anyways,
have figure out a way I can get in touch with Shinny Mighty Meat if you don't mind, and text her
absolutely.
or something or other, and discuss. I'm gonna get out of here.
Yeah, I'll send contact information over to Tony, and you can connect with her some way up there. But so that is a full-throated endorsement from Shenny, who cannot be bought. She cannot be bought. This is not a paid sponsorship.
No.
Shenny has her. Shenny is very opinionated. Let's just say that. Not always in a bad way, but Shenny is very opinionated, and she's been talking about it nonstop. So I thought it would be awesome to have you get on here and talk about it a little bit. And
I appreciate that so much. I really do.
Yeah.
Both of you.
Yeah. So hopefully, oh, did you leave? You want me to mute you, or no?
I think she muted herself.
Oh, okay. So yeah, and that's part of this is part of the community. It's part of having trust. The problem with the foods is you get them, and like I have some that are nitrogen sealed in their cases with the the oxygen scrubbers and all that stuff. Like I'm not going to open that and try that. I have tried other ones, but you want to have trust in what is essentially going to sustain your life. I mean, that would be ideal to me. So
I wasn't able to get back to something I wanted to say to Steve.
Mhm.
Was that everybody says that, oh, if you're hungry enough you'll eat. Well, yes and no. There's some people that if that's all they got and they don't like it, they won't eat it, or they won't eat much of it.
Mhm.
Which means they're not going to have sustainability. They will, and it may take a long time, but they will become malnutrition.
Yeah.
If they don't like it, they're not going to eat it. Everybody wants to think that, if you get hungry enough, you'll eat it. Let me tell you something. I've been hungry in my life, and there's shit I didn't eat.
Yep.
I'm just saying. So that was the other thing. We wanted good food because I don't know where beef stew came from. It probably came from a bastardized American version of beef bourguignon.
Mhm.
And I cook beef bourguignon in the classic French way. And it's a long time to cook. You don't just throw roast and some potatoes and carrots and fill it with water with a pack of Lipton onion mix or whatever shit people do.
Right,
It's cooked in the classic way. Now, I won't lie. Freeze-dried food does not come out like you just took it off the stove, put it on a plate, and served it. But it's very close. The other thing about freeze-dried food versus dehydrating food or canning even, which I do all of that, freeze-dried food retains somewhere around 98 or 99% of its nutrition.
Okay.
Canning, because of the heat, and dehydration because of the heat, drops the nutrition value of that food dramatically. And I don't know the exact percentages, but a good 20, 30%, it drops the nutritional value from that original state. So that's the other thing about freeze-dried food. But of course, if you don't start with good ingredients, you got shit for anyway,
Right. And that's one of the things Shenny said, yeah, I'm full off a half one. Of course you are, because we're so used to eating just garbage, bullshit.
Yeah.
And we don't get real food anymore. So even in that, it's better. I wanted to hit one real quick, but because I forgot. What's up, Mandy? What the heck is wrong with MSU? A lot. A lot. We're gonna crash and burn, unfortunately, but I wanted to get back to that because I forgot about it. Well, I couldn't get into with Chenny, but
I'm just going to turn my camera off. I'm going to go away, do some things I need to do. I'll be back in about 30 minutes.
Exactly. I've
She's
dealt
a
with Mom
sweetheart.
long enough. I've dealt with Shenny long enough that I know it's
She's a
best to just,
sweetheart. And
yeah.
she's going to say her piece. That's for sure.
Oh yeah. Yep. So, but yeah. And while Shenny was talking, I got notification from my little one, so I'm gonna wrap up here pretty soon. Because gotta go. I guess I gotta go grab pizza. Oh yeah, I have a half an hour. football game today, so we grab pizza and we'll watch it with the boys, and you know. But yeah, I really appreciate you coming on, man. Hopefully, hopefully it helps out. So
I really appreciate you having me on. I didn't realize this was going to be about the food, other than more about basically the preparing, which I've said it before, I hate the word prepper. It's a made up word for by idiots.
Yeah.
It's kind of like assault weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Or other shit that it seems like the left is coming up with. And then all these people, started YouTube channels, the urban prepper, or the Canadian prepper, or the this prepper, that prepper.
Right.
And it's all about doomsday.
Mm-hmm.
I know you need to go, but I didn't want to get off on a tangent.
Oh, no, you're good. I got a minute.
But, according to the stats and the studies, even the FBI, probably everybody that's on either of our channels, just from our nature, a good majority of them probably know firearms and carry firearms for self-defense. Probably don't know them as well as they should. However, what most people don't realize is that you are 5 times more likely to be attacked with non-deadly force than you are with deadly force. And what they don't understand is if that firearm is the only thing they have, and they don't have the training and knowledge that they need, is they're probably going to rely on that gun in a situation that's going to end them up in prison for the rest of their life.
Right.
Because they have no non-lethal options to defend themselves. They don't know the laws of when and how you can or cannot employ deadly force or even non-deadly force.
Mm-hmm.
They don't realize that you can go to prison for 10 to 20 years and never pull a trigger on a gun.
Yeah.
For aggravated assault.
Yeah. Brandishing. So if you pull the gun out, it's a crime here in Michigan. You get brandishing and you get aggravated assault if you pull it out, even if you don't use it. And those are both felonies. So
right. It depends. And brandishing is a law that most states or laws don't use, or term they don't use anymore. It's simply aggravated assault. And people don't know what aggravated assault is. Aggravated assault means that you put someone in fear of their life or great bodily injury. All they had to do was reasonably fear for their life or great bodily injury. And you've committed aggravated assault. Never touched them, never shot them, never did anything.
Yep.
And a lot of jurisdictions, that's 10 to 20 years if you're convicted.
Yeah, we have Connie Whitmer, so she kept brandishing and added aggravated assault onto brandishing. So they're both crimes still in Michigan. Double dipping, if you ask me, but that's a whole different topic.
Yeah, and that's jurisdictional.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same thing. I said all of that to say this is that these people that give people who prepare, and let's say, let's take any person on here who has a concealed carry permit or has constitutional carry in their state and carries a firearm on a daily basis for self-defense. What are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
You're prepping. You're preparing yourself to be able to defend yourself or your family or an innocent third party against a deadly force attack.
Yeah.
You made a conscious decision to prepare yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is. So all these doomsday people that, and they get on there and they talk a bunch of propaganda, just as much as the left can do. And I don't know which way most of these people lean. I know a lot of them actually do lean to the right, and yet, they're doing, some people, not everybody that's on there, but some people, all they talk about is this, the final shit hit the fan situation, the end of the world as we know it, or whatever acronyms they come up with. And it's the same. It's the same analogy. Okay. You're tons more likely. Now, I know Steve talked about a lot of things like hyperinflation and stuff coming down the road that could lead to a collapse. Another the 30s. Depression, yeah. Or at least a severe recession, but a depression that, and again, miss 9 meals and, you're going to have dangerous situations.
Right.
So,
right.
But in the meantime, in the short of it, I think you're more likely to need those preparations for a natural disaster or maybe a short-term civil disobedience. I mean, look at the Summer of Love.
Exactly.
And nobody did anything about that. Nobody. They let it happen.
Yeah. Well, early 2000s, I was in Detroit, and there was a bunch of stuff that I wish I would have been prepared for. And it was all due to a power outage, and it was a long-term power outage. But yeah, usually doomsday people, like, I don't want to besmirch somebody.
I can't really, badmouth that. I'm here trying to, make a business out of Prepare too, but I'm not trying to sell it to you as a, you need to have a year's worth of food, though. I think most people should have much more than that.
Right. Well,
I think 3 months at a minimum.
You're also not Canadian prepper who, a bird flew by my window this morning, so that means that it's going to be nuclear war, and you need to buy X, Y, and Z, and if not, you're going to die by Tuesday at 3:00. Like that's the difference with the clickbait.
You can get all these things on my Amazon affiliate store.
Right. Well, he has Canadian prepper has his own store, so it's all fear porn. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I've seen him a few times, and it's like, I've seen some people that do some pretty good stuff, and they have built a community and actually train with their stuff and practice with their gear and do stuff like that. And it may be people in the city, and they have a place that they're all going to go when something happens. They have stuff that's packed up and going to go.
Yep.
That's different. I mean, that could be because of a hurricane. It could be because of any type of natural disaster, tornado, earthquake, whatever.
Yeah.
Those are the things that's more likely than, total nuclear annihilation or enough annihilation that it takes out the grid and everybody else.
Right.
And you know what? If we have that much annihilation, the better thing would probably be ground zero.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and there are some good prepping channels. A guy that I've been trying to get on this show for various different topics, and he's probably annoyed with me emailing him, but he's very polite and won't tell me that yet. Southern Prepper 1 is a guy that I watch. He's down by you. And he's Southern Prepper 1.
The number 1 or spelled out?
It's just the number 1, I believe.
Okay. I'm not. I don't know if I've seen that guy or not.
He's a pretty good guy. He just kind of gives you some, basic information and tips and tricks every once in a while, but not hard pushing to sell. And he's very community. There's Pinball Prepper who's in Tennessee. He's pretty decent too. I participated a couple times. He'll do seed boxes, so he'll send around seed boxes to different viewers and stuff like that. That stuff's cool. Excuse me. But so there are some good ones.
And even though I've been sucking at it, growing food is something. I mean, I don't live on I never got my 40 acres and a mule.
Yeah.
So I've got a half acre, and there's very little of that's actually usable to grow, but I do have some raised beds. And so far I've had very limited luck with it, but I have had some. Most of it's due to me not putting in the due diligence that I should.
Yeah, the effort.
Yeah, exactly. But to have seeds and have the ability to grow, which I do, that's another thing. It's more about becoming, and you're never going to be self-sufficient. I don't care. You're just not. But you can become less reliant.
Right. And that's the importance of the community, because
Right.
you're going to want that community and people to do what you're not capable of doing. So,
Yeah. And you're going to need, in that community, you don't just need knuckle draggers.
Yeah.
You know, you need people that know electronics, electricity, plumbing, construction, dentistry, medicine. Maybe even, as much as we hate them, maybe even lawyers. Somebody's going to need to know somebody's going to need to know the laws, that if we have to set up a new government, it's people that, need to know the laws, need to know what the Constitution says, needs to know why it was. We need more educated people. We need more
absolutely. I agree with that.
people
But
that are educated, because you used to have this class called civics.
Mhm.
And that's what it did. It taught you about the government. It taught you your rights. It taught you the Constitution. It taught history of that period, prior and after. They don't have that anymore. It was replaced by a fucking class called social studies, which makes you a social creature relying upon the government.
which went to woke. So,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we can hire Steve Gosney. He's the only decent lawyer I know. Yeah, that was a shot, Ozzy. That was a
Andrew
shot,
Franklin.
Ozzy. I know.
Andrew
I was messing with Ozzy.
Yeah. Is he on here?
No, he'll watch it at some point.
Okay.
But yeah. So,
Yeah,
ladies and gentlemen,
there's some
Oh,
law
it's okay.
teachers out there.
Mhm.
Steve from Southern Law is one. David from MLS. They all seem to be pretty grounded folks. Ozzy, but I mean, he's Australian.
I know he doesn't really exist, but
Yeah.
that will piss him off more. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, my little guy's back at the top of the stairs, so we got to watch some football. So, thank you, Fast, for coming on. Thank you, Steve, for giving us some time today and coming on. Thank you, Shenny, for giving us your review. So,
Yes, thank you so much for the order and the review.
Mhm.
It's always scary, because I know how much effort and love and attention I put into cooking and then freeze drying. But having been in a chef in a restaurant, and you make the greatest things, and you got something that's like, this sucks. Even though it doesn't, and all the customers always right. No, they're not. They're not always right.
No.
But it's always, you're like, oh, is this person going to like it? Because you can get 10 great reviews and get one bad one, and it'll kind of wreck it. It can really set you back.
Oh yeah, of course.
And that other person just be dead wrong, because they just don't. Well, this doesn't taste like a Big Mac. Well, it's because it's not.
Right. It's because it's not garbage.
Yeah, so you're always worried, and I know that Shenny had already said that she liked it before she did the review tonight, so I wasn't too worried about that. But when you just say, "Oh, I sent you some food. Don't tell me what it's like, and let's go on live stream," and then you start ripping how my food sucks. It's,
Pretty much, if I buy something and I don't review it, you might want to pay me to stay shut up. Okay. But if I open my mouth about something, then I'm liking it. Now, if it gets in my craw and I can't let it go, you might want to pay me again to just shut up. So I'm just saying, if y'all got in my craw about something recently, you might want to get in touch with me and have it out word to word before I go online with it. Here you go. Thank you both
And I
again,
want-
Mighty,
I
for
want-
letting me talk.
I want honest reviews, and not everything anybody does is going to be perfect all the time.
Right.
So having constructive criticism where you can say, this had just something not right, then it's okay. It's time to go back and let's investigate that. And if there's something that needs to be fixed, fix it.
Yeah. Yep,
people
for sure.
with really good palates, like my daughter, she had never had some foods before, and I gave her something, and she's like, Mom, this would taste better if it had thyme. I had never friggin' cooked in my life with thyme. Where did she come up with that? She didn't even know. She just knew that the universe told her something would taste better with thyme. So there are people out there that you might want to use as guinea pigs. I'll let
Yeah.
you know how to get a hold of my daughter someday.
Thyme is part of the Bouquet Garni.
Well, it's good. So maybe that was what I made, and she just said put some in there. I don't know.
No,
So-
All right.
Bouquet Garni is thyme and sometimes some rosemary wrapped up with a bay leaf and tied up, and it's put into sauces and sauteed or braising dishes and stuff like that imparts flavor, and you pull it out. at the
Again, my passing word is I love you, baby. Thank you for having me on and letting me talk. Fast Group, I love your foods. I hope that people really do understand. I ain't a liar. I'm going to tell it how it is. And baby, I'm going to say, I love you. I'm out. Have a good time. I'm leaving for real. See y'all.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Well, actually, hang out, but don't leave. Hang on.
I get it. I'm going to be after. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, that's going to be it for me. Please check out Fast Group. His link to his foods are pinned as the comment. I'm going to get out of here, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all have an awesome day. No show tonight for me. Go ahead and check out Steve. He sounds like he has a good one coming up tonight. And then back to the Matthew Moore trial tomorrow night. So hope everyone has an awesome day, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank everybody in chat as well. There were some comments I wanted to get to more, but we just didn't get the time. So appreciate you having me on. And peace, everybody.
Take care, everybody.